Hello, everyone. Welcome to another day of Courageous Parenting Summit. I am Filza Jabeen. I am mother of three children, parenting coach, and team leadership coach. And this is my friend Edith Wallach.
Hi, everyone. I'm Edith Wallach. Thank you, Filza. I am a leadership coach, brand and design specialist, as well as mother of three and Amazon bestselling author. And our vision is here to empower parents and children by building connection with love.
Today we have here with us Alma Galvan. Welcome, Alma.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here uh, and share a little bit of my story.
Yes. So Alma's children were diagnosed with severe autism, ADHD, sensory disorders, and more. Two doctors even told her to put her oldest son in an institute and move on with her life. That's where her journey began. It took her 7 years to discover some powerful new techniques that were scientifically proven to promote brain development. They literally changed her life. For the past 20 years, she has worked with thousands of families to help their children overcome anxiety, overwhelm, distractibility, foggy thinking, procrastination, and much more. Today, she is going to talk about how understanding brain development help us become best parent. Tell us more about
Yes.
it, Alma.
Oh my goodness. Well, as you were saying, my journey, and not in a million years would I have thought that I would be doing what I'm doing. I wanted to be a computer programmer because at that back in the 90s, computers didn't talk back. And I liked privacy. I liked simplicity in my life. I wanted a 9 to 5 job and leave me alone. Well, I found myself as a young mom in my in my 20s with two kiddos that uh, did not speak. We had meltdowns that were up to 2 hours. And I say we because I love your summit. It's talking about parenting. And what I'm going to talk about is really what I wish I would have known as a parent from the very beginning. My journey was started with my kids, but what I really learned was how much I had to learn, how much I was compensating for, and how as I did the work with them, my brain changed. And so let me go back a little bit. In helping my kids, I realized some very, very powerful things. One of them was movement is our first language. And so through movement, it allows us to grow and change our brain. And I wish I would have learned that from the very beginning. But in the 90s, this is 25 years ago, doctors and science said that our brain was hardwired after 30, that was it. Whatever we got, we got. And now we know that that is the furthest thing from the truth. We can change, we can grow our brain at any age as long as we're alive. My oldest participant we have in BrainWorks is 86 years old. Very successful woman. But what happens is this. I'm going to take you to the very beginning. What happens is in utero, we as a baby, we're growing and we're being so sweetly developing. And then our mom has a challenge. She has stress that comes up. And the baby then goes into something that the world calls fear paralysis reflex. This reflex, then the baby goes, I don't want to take in the chemicals, the cortisol, the stress hormones. So it goes into protection mode. So for that blip of time, the baby's development is not happening at its optimal. That becomes a gap. So it's not a big deal if it's one or two or three little gaps. The thing is, our parents, think of your parent. How comfy was she when she was pregnant with you? How was I? I was a mess with my second son because my first son already demonstrated certain challenges that the doctors kept saying before I got pregnant, nothing's wrong, nothing's wrong. And I'm like, but I have a gut feeling something's off. And they're like, Alma, you're neurotic. Boys, speak later than girls. Don't worry about it. And so I get pregnant with my second son. And at that point, my first son then had the MMR vaccine, I'm just going to say it, and everything fell apart because he had already had trauma coming into this world that he did not develop. I say he never really got fully cooked. For a physical trauma, I was ill when I was pregnant with my first son. So he was born with many gaps already. And now having an external, I would say, affliction really sent the brain into a chaotic state. He had no idea what was safe, what was not. He was bolting down through traffic, not an awareness what was safe and what was not. So with my second son, I was so stressed. I'm like, how am I going to keep this kid alive? And the solutions that the doctors were giving me, they were not solutions that I could accept. Yet I didn't know what to do. So it was absolute hell. Absolute. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I was a mess. I hated my life. I was depressed. I did not sleep. Because then once my second son was born, he had night terrors. So all night he would cry, and my first one would run all day. And my husband worked out of state because he had to do what he needed to do to help support our family. So everyone around me said, it's your parenting. If you would only do this, how many of us have found that? Oh, just do this, just do that. And I'm like, just walk in my shoes, but not like, a moment, walk in my shoes a day, and then let's talk. And so going back to the baby, going back to development, the baby then, when it's born, our birth process is absolutely traumatic in general. There's some people that are really getting to know more about how to help women give birth in a more natural way, to have less stress to the baby and to really do it in the most efficient way. But for the majority of us, we were born, and what happens as soon as we're born? What's one of the first things that you guys can think of that happens as soon as a baby is born? What do you think?
Baby will cry.
It cries. Well, my first son did not cry, which already gives me a glimpse that something was off, but we didn't know, and the doctors didn't know. That's one thing. But something really, really early on is that the umbilical cord gets cut off. That is traumatic for the baby, because when the birth is happening, there's a lot of chemicals, there's a lot of things that are floating to be able to have the birth process be done. And then the baby's filled with these chemicals that it does not have a system to be able to take care of them. And we cut the umbilical cord, leaving all that stress in the baby's little sweet body. Do you see how then we're off the path of development, giving our developmental sequence lots of little gaps? So for my sons, they had big gaps that then resulted in behavior. In behavior that they were meltdowns, they were inattentive, they were, oh my gosh, name it. And so what I learned is like, okay, I'm going to figure it out. After a while, after I got out of my pity party, I realized something. I said, I did not learn where to put my son's eyes, or where their ears should go, or where their heart would go. Some intelligence is bigger than, and it knows what to do. That intelligence has the blueprint. So I'm like, all right, whatever, whoever you are, I called it God at that moment. Show me what to do. You know the blueprint of my kids. Show me what to do. So I started researching, and I have found that that's my brain. I'm a researcher. I'm inquisitive. I want to know how things work. And so I love that part now. And so I started researching and searching, and it really wasn't like, show me what to do and everything fell into place. Nope. I did one after another program, as much as I could afford, as much as I could do. And nothing was really making a difference. And I'm like, what's going on? Later on, after I've done enough research, I realized that much of what I was doing, OT, PT, speech, pivotal response, discrete trial, all of these other modalities, they're good modalities, but they're too advanced for their development. So they can't be intaken if they're too far, if it's too advanced. It's almost like, I kind of think about it this way. It's almost like I'm in kindergarten, but they want me to do college material. It's not going to happen. I can get to college material if I then go through the sequence to be able to do that, but not in kindergarten. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Totally.
Beautiful.
So in my search, I kept wanting to figure out, like, how do I do this? And at one point, I got to be honest, because we go through ups and downs. It's not a straight shot in learning and in growing. And I was at wit's end, and I was crying. And I'm not really a crier, but I was crying. I cry, but you know what I mean? It's like, and I was crying to one of my friends. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I've been trying everything that I can, and nothing is making a difference. And she said, there's this teacher that she actually was her like housekeeper for this teacher in a different school. She's doing something. You should talk to her. What is she doing? I don't know, but you can feel the passion. And so, okay, give me her phone number. She can just hang up on me. And so in 45 minutes, she described my son like no one had ever described him. And she had never even seen him. She hadn't even met him. And I had been spending a lot of money in trying to get assessments and trying to figure out what to do. And nobody had ever described certain aspects in the way that she did. So I'm like, can you see my son? Can you? So she reluctantly agreed. And we went to her, basically to her house, to her garage. And she showed me some movements. They were brain gym movements.
Okay.
And so I went home and I started doing these movements. And I'm not kidding. Within like a week and a half, it felt like I could breathe for the very first time. It felt like the edge had been taken off of our home, that there's a notable difference, a little bit. And so I'm like, this is amazing. So we kept doing these movements. What happened was that I had to do the movements with my kids. So as I did them, I changed. My nervous system became more regulated. And then mirror neurons come into play. And so it was a beautiful dumb luck thing that I had to do it. Because back then, if they would have had the ability to follow directions, I probably would have said, okay, you do that. I'm going to go do the dishes. Nope. I had to learn how to play with them. This is what this teacher gifted me, an ability to play that I saw her. And then I tapped into, I need to become a kid again with them. And so I started playing with these movements. And about 3 months into it, I started noticing that if we didn't do the movements, we would revert. We would have meltdowns. And I say we because the strongest energy wins. So it doesn't mean the calmest energy. And that's where my goal is, the people that work with me, is I want us to be, and in everybody that's like searching, that's why they're here, that you're here to find a solution, that you become the strongest energy, but the strongest, most loving, calm, supportive, and compassionate energy. If we become that energy in our home, everything else is going to fall into place. But if we're nervous, if we're anxious, and I'm going to talk a little bit more of a different aspect that also makes us nervous and anxious in a moment. But I co-regulated to my kids' energy because they were the strongest. So we were having meltdowns, and I'm not proud to say that sometimes a lot of them were internal meltdowns of myself, beating myself up. I'm not a good parent. I'm not a good person. What's going on? I'm not enough. I'm always falling short. And sometimes I would have them externally, just like them. And so the more I learned about these movements, and then shortly after that, same teacher, I was talking to her, and I was like, I think we've hit a ceiling. Like, there's a plateau. Like, yes, it's wonderful. This is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. I'm ecstatic that we have something that's making a difference, but there's got to be more. And she said, funny you say that. I came across this research. It's from Doman and Delicato back in the 50s, ladies. 50s. Doman and Delicato worked with brain injured children, and they had this idea that they were going to create certain movements that babies would do and see what would happen. And to their surprise, and to my I'm so thankful that they did that. What happens is when they went back and mimicked some of the movements in a certain way, the brain changed. The brain, and back in the 50s, this is where like the brain is hardwired. It can't be changed. No, they were starting to show people that it can change, but because it was so new, and anytime something is new, there's a huge there's an agenda to prove it wrong instead of like opening up our heart. What if it is? So I love that they did this, because what they discovered was that even if there was an injury in the brain could go around the injury. They didn't know that then, but that's what we know now. So how cool is that? So at any age, we go back and so what we do in brainwaves is that we go back even to utero and reboot the system, the developmental sequence, to fill in the gaps so that then we acquire functions. You want to know some of those functions that we acquire?
Yes.
I would love to know.
So, I was waiting for it.
Yeah, this is where there's a confusion when there's functions that are not available. We think that it's because like we're not trying hard enough. So let me explain. One of the first movements that happens is the baby starts to be on their tummy. They start to be able to start to move here and there. One of the major movements is creeping. It's tummy time. Tummy time and creeping, being on the tummy, allows a part of the brain that's called the pons, P-O-N-S. That part of the brain lets us know if we are really in a challenging situation that we need to flee, we need to fight, we need to freeze, or we need to collapse. It lets us know how to survive. That's our survival part of our brain. And if we didn't do enough tummy time, the brain does not get the right signals from our world. It could be, as simple as, hey, my boss wants to talk to me. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Or my husband wants to have a conversation, and my body goes into fight or flight. It's like, and in fight or flight, we cannot think. We cannot be creative. We're in survival. So there's no blood flow in our thinking, rational, sweet, loving brain, none. And so if we're always in constant angst, if we're in survival all the time, how good can we show up for our children? And that's why I say that brain development can make us better parents. Brain development, if we understand brain development, that makes us better parents, just understanding. Because it could be as simple as, hey, turn off the TV, let's go take a shower. What? I want to, right? You're the saber tooth. That's what it originated. You're the threat as a parent, and you're like, I don't understand. I just asked you to turn off the TV. It's not a big deal. Oh, it is if you're the saber tooth to the brain. Mm-hmm. And it's not a logical thing. You cannot talk your way into logic. It's biological. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, so I absolutely understand. And that's a very common scenario in every family.
Mm-hmm. So I'll give you a hack right off the bat. So if you're going to ask your child, and you know that these kinds of reactions are happening, this is a sure thing that pons did not get the full development that it needed for whatever reason. Now, please know that it's not that you're doing something wrong as a parent. You're doing the best you can. Is that there's not enough education, and that's why I didn't want to be out in the world and sharing my story. But when I really realized the gift that I had been given as a parent, I go, oh my gosh, there's a huge increase of kiddos that are being misunderstood, and parents that are amazing parents that just don't know what to do. I know it, I felt it, I lived it. And so that's why we're talking, because I want to share words of encouragement and words of knowing that now I know that there is other possibilities that can happen. So a hack is simple. When you're going to ask a child to do something, ask a question. If you tell a child to do something, they are more likely to react. But if you ask a question, they have to come here to think about it. So can't stay too long on that one, but just kind of ponder on that. Asking a question will allow the child to have to think about it.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. Because sitting here, if somebody is like ordering me or telling me, I am totally going to like say no to it. But when somebody asks me the question, my brain starts working. How can I better answer this? How can I better find the answer of this? So that's a very big one.
Yes. And so now let's say that the child is moving in development. The next thing that happens is crawling. Now this is where there's a huge amount of executive functions that come in. So this is auditory processing, auditory discrimination, visual imagery, visual closure, shifting gears, being able to hear and know what's important and what's not. When a child didn't crawl enough, it will have a whole bunch of different distortions. What happens with anytime that there's these gaps is that the brain is going to have to work harder. So that's the bigger thing. That if the brain was working harder, then it's not going to have the energy to be creative, to enjoy life as much, because it has to work harder, which means that we're not going to really achieve our optimal. And many times we can't even connect with joy. So everything is coming into the brain, but the brain cannot decipher what's important and what's not. So parents or teachers or people go, pay attention. And I wish that we could say, to what? Because everything, I hear the bird, I hear the car, I hear the teacher, I hear the parent, everything is coming in. I cannot distinguish what is important and what's not. Everything is priority. And so then the brain gets so tired, then it's like, oh, I'm just going to zone out. I hear a car going by. I turn, oh, something else caught my eye. Oh, they call me distracted. They call me inattentive. And so this is where I'm talking about that we have a misunderstanding of behaviors, thinking that you're not paying attention to me. Didn't I ask you to go clean your room? The thing is, what does that mean when the brain is so disorganized? I go in my room and everything looks like a Monet. Where do I start? To the brain, it doesn't know what to do first, what to do second, what to do third. And we're thinking, well, it's easy. Well, it's easy because you, as a parent, we sometimes, now I say sometimes, have that. I didn't. I did not have, I learned so much of myself in this process because I had a lot of gaps. I just compensated so good that nobody knew until my whole world fell apart, because then I couldn't compensate for myself and for my children. But my house was a mess. Like I would say, I need to go wash the dishes. Oh, wait, no, I need to put the laundry. Oh, wait, I need to clean this up. I can never does that sound familiar to anybody? And that has to do with brain processing. That has to do with brain development. I know what to do first. I know priority. I know sequence. I know process. I can get things done in an appropriate. That's brain development. Tags bother. You can't that has to do with brain development. Being able to copy things from the board, going far, then coming home. Coming close instantly. That's a brain function it's actually a visual function, but it gets solidified in crawling. Being able to have good balance, being able to know where I am in space. Kiddos that didn't crawl enough, they don't know where they are in space. So they're always needing to fidget, because if I fidget, it's like the learning to ride a bike. When you're learning to ride a bike, you can't go slow. You have to go fast, and that keeps the balance. Do you guys remember that? But if you go slow, boom, And the kids, if they then slow down, their brain shuts off because the vestibular is in our inner ear. And there's little hairs that need to be moving all the time. And so if they're moving, they're really, really microscopic ones. If they're moving all the time, my brain is on. But if they say, Alma, stop moving, my brain goes like that. I'm gone. But I'm not moving. Yeah, but I can't do it both. So when people say, sit still, pay attention. No, you got to pick. Do you want to sit still or do you want to pay attention? Either one, but you can't do both with these gaps in the development. Do you see how absolutely exciting it is for me as a parent that I wish I would have known this? And when we just understand it with understanding gives us this ability to show up with more compassion for our children. That makes us a better parent.
Yeah.
So
100%. I totally understand what you were saying, and also focusing our energy not on the child's what's wrong, but something that we can support and what we can learn about our own brain development, not only about the children's brain, which is really important to learn. Brain is a brain, and we've got to adopt our techniques to support our children. So what would you say why other therapies didn't work?
Too far in advance. They were way too advanced. Yeah. So again, it's kind of like I am a kindergartner and they want me to do high school or college stuff. It's just but if we go back and we start doing like little coloring, little movements, little things like that, then all of a sudden I can grow. I can grow my capacity to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're 100% right. Our children, when they have meltdowns, it's communications saying, you're asking me to do things that I absolutely can't. I'm out of gas. It's too much. I'm hungry. I'm getting sick. It's communication. But we as a parent, we're so overwhelmed that we just want to stop the behavior. And sometimes we do if we go overly powering, but that is short-lived. It's short-lived. And so then we can only make that behavior stop, but we're not taking care of our child and we're not taking care of the behavior. We're just making ourselves feel okay for the moment that we stop that behavior. So I want to go into something that we can start learning right away. And I'm going to show you a movement because for me, it's one of the most powerful movements that is so simple. Because how many of us know consciously what to do? And then we're in a situation where there's challenging things and we don't respond the way that we want to. We react.
Yeah.
Right?
We do that.
And then we beat ourselves up. Why did I do that? I know better than that. Well, there's two parts to this. One is you've gone to the doctor and the doctor, you're sitting on the doctor's table and he hits your knee and the knee goes boom, right? Your leg goes, it straightens out. It's a reflex.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's an automatic thing. So imagine if I said, oh, you can't move that. Work hard. You got to work harder. Well, that's not possible. So if we have reflexes, if we have brain development that send us into that fight or flight, that's a reflex. That's beautiful, built in. If we have a car that's going to hit us, we need that to be able to move quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That's one part. So we need to have compassion that when we respond to that, we know that it's our biology that is kicking in and it's doing the best that it can. And then there's another part. We have all kinds of beliefs about what a good mom is, what a good parent is, what a good person is. And if we don't have certain capacities, we start to beat ourselves up. I'm not enough. I'm not a good enough mom. I'm not a good enough wife. I need to do more. And we demand the things from us without understanding that we were imprinted up to 7, 8 years old. We were downloaded with beliefs, with attitudes, with programs of how we should be. And so we got a lot of wonderful programs, but we got some really faulty ones. And it could have even been as simple as this. Your mom needs to go take a shower, or my mom went to take a shower, and I'm a little baby, and because imprinting starts even in utero. The baby starts to understand the mom's chemistry, how she responds, and so that allows us to know how do we incorporate ourselves into this world. It's beautiful. The thing is, our parents have had so many challenges. I had so many challenges that I had, and I still do have many, many, many limiting beliefs about myself. And so what I'm going to show you in a moment is a movement that will start changing the imprint, that's actually downloading new beliefs about yourself. And if you download beliefs in the subconscious a little at a time, then that starts to change how you respond. That becomes the automatic response, not the reaction that happens. Isn't that exciting? So it's not just about, let me just share with you a few things. And yes, I want to share with you, but I want to give you, I want to help empower parents so that then truly, if a parent, especially moms, come on, I mean, let's be real. Most of the moms are the ones that are the pillar in the home. The dads are amazing, but they're maxed. So it's left up to us. And so what a blessing it is that it's left up to us, because we do have capacity, and we have the ability, if we want to. We have tools to be able to do that now, that we know.
Yes.
We understand.
Yes, I would love to learn that.
So very quickly though, let me show you how much time do we have?
Yes,
Can
we
I show
have
you?
very
about
less
2
time.
minutes. But
Okay.
if you can also finish off, because I know that you have amazing gift for our audience as
Yes.
well. So let's
So-
do it. Let's learn both your gift and your tool.
Movement. Okay.
Yeah.
This is my favorite movement right now, because in a short amount of time, I can change my brain state. And so I'm going to have you do it with me. I want to have you put one hand on your heart, and that the hand kind of goes on both sides of your body. And then the other one goes on that hand. And we're going to do it first together, and then I'll explain why this is so important. So every time I do, I call it soothing heart. So when we connect with our heart and we come from our heart in a loving and sweet and compassionate way, it's going to be, we can connect, but we have to change our brain state. If we're stressed, if we're worried, if we're anxious, we have to take care of ourselves first. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a breath. And our intention for today is I show up, I do my best, and I release the rest. And so take a breath and exhale through your mouth. And when you exhale through your mouth, press on your heart as you exhale through your mouth. And it's really knowing that we show up, we do our best, and we're going to work hard to release the rest, that we know that we're going to grow a little at a time. So take another breath and press on your heart again as you exhale through your mouth. And then switch your hands. So we're going to do 2 breaths on each hand. So take a breath. Connect with your heart. Feel how your heart beats and press on it. And exhale through your mouth. I show up, do my best, and release the rest. Let's do that one more time.
I feel it.
Press on your heart. I show up, do my best, and release the rest. And in such a simple, short time, what did you guys feel?
Wow.
Oh, I feel enlightened and light and fresh, refreshed.
Yeah.
It's like feeling my own heartbeat. It's like it gave me something different, feeling like, yes, I did something today, and acknowledging myself is a magical thing for me. Thank you. Thank you for showing this to us.
Yeah, there's research that talks about connecting with your heart for 3 minutes a day, holding a gratitude feeling, and breathing can boost our immune system for up to 6 hours. Now, why I like it is because when we set an intention, look at my hands. My hands are connecting both sides of my brain because they're in both hemispheres. They're connecting both hemispheres. I'm connecting to my brain. And when I set the intention, because I'm in this state, this turns on something that's called super learning, by the way. As you set the intention and you're here, because this side of my brain controls this side of my body, just holding my hands over my heart this way, it turns on super learning, which in super learning is where we were at in a hypnotic state before 7 or 8 years old, which means at this point we are in a conscious hypnotic state. And that super learning with an intention allows us to download a belief to our subconscious. Our subconscious then, little at a time, starts to then add up. And it allows us to truly put in beliefs of how we want to be. Because when we react to our children, we're reacting from our fear that, oh my gosh, if I can't get them to do this, they're not going to do that. They're going to be homeless.
Absolutely.
Oh my
And it
goodness.
happens in a fraction of a second.
I would want to listen to you all day because this is so fascinating and so much value that you've given to our parents to start creating and start connecting with themselves, releasing what is not serving them first before we approach our children, before we intervene, before we ask them to turn off the TV.
Exactly.
That's
A
fascinating.
little at a time.
Yes. Can you
Thank
talk a
you.
little bit about your gift, like quickly, one line about your gift to our
Very
audience?
quickly, I'm sending you guys a 2-hour workshop that I go in depth into the brain development aspect, and I call it the rewire aspect of it as well. I'm also giving you another one, and that is every Wednesday I send out an audio of Alma in Your Corner. And Alma in Your Corner I created it because I wish somebody would have been in my corner then. So I want to be in someone's corner that needs some support, and that's a free gift as well. So both of them are free. And
Beautiful.
anybody.
Thank you
Beautiful.
so much. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much
Uche.
for helping and supporting parents. And thank you for listening, everyone else.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.